The movie begins during a military function where hundreds of comrades have gathered. Many are still serving for their country, while others have retired. In one corner of the event, some rowdy soldiers are enjoying a feast. They are arrogantly messing with the waiter by teasing him, flying paper airplanes, those bastards, and even throwing the food on the floor. Okay, but one of them crosses all limits when he grabs a stray dog and starts herding it. Seeing this, an old veteran arrives at the scene and immediately takes action. He pins the young soldier to a table and twists his arm, sending him scurrying away. After the commotion is over, the waiter thanks him for saving the dog. The two then engage in conversation, during which the old man goes on a rant about how cruel humans have become. They don't hesitate to kill other beings, not even their own kind. But dogs, on the other hand, are full of loyalty and compassion. They are the only animals which put their owners' lives before their own, and that's why we cut their nuts off. Following this, the old man begins talking about his father, Volkov, and the movie goes into a flashback. Just before the Second World War began in 1939, Volkov graduated from the Military Air Force Academy with honors. He was so good at his work that he was immediately promoted to the position of commander. But things took a drastic turn when the general paid him a visit one night. Turns out Volkov was having an affair with a beautiful woman named Tatiana. She was the general's daughter, and he didn't approve of their relationship. He sternly warned Volkov to stay away from her, threatening him with consequences otherwise. However, our hero ignored the threats because dead ass, and vowed that he would always remain by her side. He claimed that he was ready to face any consequences that came his way. Back in the present, the old man narrates that the decision cost his father dearly. Volkov was falsely arrested the next morning on charges of indiscipline. He was imprisoned for 2 years in one of the harshest jails in Siberia. At least he was doing time for being a friggin' pimp. Upon his release, Volkov was humiliated further as he was demoted to the position of a forest ranger. But fate had other plans for him, as one day, while on duty, he rescued a puppy from 2 wolves. Volkov named this puppy Prince, and they went on to become best friends in life. The movie then goes into another flashback to the year 1943. Prince has now grown into a big dog, and he's immensely loyal to his master. One day, while Volkov is scanning the forest, he is suddenly ambushed by a German spy. The situation turns grim when the spy pulls out a knife and proceeds to stab Volkov. Back in the nick of time, Prince shows up and takes him down. This act of heroism earns both Volkov and Prince the respect of the Red Army. As the months pass, the two grow closer. They play, eat, and even sleep together. Soon the country comes under German invasion, so Volkov is enlisted in the military along with his dog. But since he hasn't recovered from his earlier injuries, he is assigned to the medical department. One morning, their camp comes under heavy attack from German bombers. Since they were not prepared, a lot of their men end up dying. But Volkov somehow manages to dodge the explosions and reach a safe place. He then gathers all the injured soldiers and loads them into a truck. After this, he grabs a rifle and starts shooting at the German soldiers himself. Despite not being trained for years, he manages to take down a few enemies with his impressive skills. But Volkov's luck soon runs out as a missile lands near him, rendering him unconscious. Just when it seems he's going to pass away, his loyal companion Prince springs into action. He rushes to the medical truck and brings one of the nurses named Nina along with him. It is revealed that Nina is Volkov's fiancée, so she recognizes the dog instantly. She then arrives at the location where he is lying and manages to rescue him. In the aftermath of this incident, Volkov undergoes an immediate surgery and a part of his leg is amputated. He is then transferred to the state hospital where Nina looks after him day and night. Prince is also by his side, ever the loyal and cheerful pup. The loving canine quickly becomes a popular figure as all the soldiers love playing with him. One day, Volkov is visited by his ex, Tatiana. She reveals that she has married another man and is living happily with him, although Volkov puts on a straight face.
"Thank you for coming to me in my moment of weakness to shatter my heart."
He is definitely upset inside. After a few months, Volkov finally recovers, but he now has to walk with the help of crutches. He doesn't even get time to recuperate as the general immediately deploys him to the front line, along with Prince. Turns out the Germans are advancing at an alarming rate, and their highly futuristic tanks are wreaking havoc. Volkov is then sent to a military dog training base, where several other men like him have been called upon. One day, Volkov learns that Tatiana has been assaulted by her husband. Worried, he rushes to her house and starts tending to her injuries. In the midst of this, Nina suddenly arrives and catches them in a compromising position. She had already been suspicious of their relationship, and now her doubts have been proven true. Volkov tries to explain it's not what it looks like.
I was just putting band-aids on, babe.
But she doesn't listen and storms away. Later, Volkov visits the hospital to look for Nina, only to learn that she has voluntarily transferred herself to the battlefield front line. He also discovers that she is pregnant with their child, making him feel even more guilty. In the next scene, we are taken to the military base, where all the dogs are about to undergo harsh training. The general announces that from now on, the canines will be fed underneath tanks so that they can familiarize themselves with the sounds of the engines. He also reveals their mission. The dogs will run beneath the German tanks and blow them to pieces. Hearing this, the owners become enraged because this would be a death warrant for their pets, but the general threatens to punish them if they don't comply. The next day, the training sessions become even more intense as the dogs are now ordered to go underneath moving tanks. Volkov claims that the dogs are sensitive and that they won't be able to work under such intense noise. Hearing this, the general grabs 2 puppies and throws them under a tank. As soon as he does so, the mother dog breaks free and rushes to save them. She disregards the deafening noise of the tank and goes under it, proving that they can indeed work in such environments. Later, the assistant to the general explains that humans were initially deployed to carry the bombs, but they were too slow and often got shot before reaching the tanks. So they reverted to dogs, which are much faster and more agile. The assistant also reveals that they previously trained some dogs to release bombs under enemy tanks and return, but it failed. This is because the dogs got confused, didn't respond to whistles, and dropped bombs everywhere. As a result, they're left with no choice but to send the canines on self-kill missions. Upon hearing this, Volkov is devastated, as he cannot bear the thought of losing his best friend. That night, when he reaches his quarters, he starts breaking the objects in frustration. He contemplates running away with Prince and has a mental breakdown. But before he can do something drastic, Tatiana arrives and consoles him. She first kisses him passionately and then reminds him of the dire situation their country is facing right now. According to Tatiana, Prince is not just a dog, but a hero who can help defend their country against evil. Hearing all this, Volkov is motivated. Well, his penis is anyway, so he figures his brain is too. And he eventually decides to stay and fight for the nation. The following day, during training, he takes a bowl of dog food and dashes beneath a tank. Witnessing this, Prince immediately rushes to save him. The loyal companion doesn't seem to care about the food. He's just concerned about his master. In the next scene, Volkov and his fellow comrades are finally taken to the battlefield. The general reveals that 4 German tanks are approaching their way, so stopping them is a must. He then attaches the bombs to the dogs, preparing them for the important mission. But just when everything is going according to plan, one of the dogs rushes towards a Soviet tank. It turns out the general and his men completely forgot to train the dogs on how to distinguish between German and Soviet tanks. By the time they realize what's going on, it's too late, as the poor canine blows up their own tank, depleting their numbers even further. To make matters worse, the enemies show up at that exact moment. 4 German tanks and several soldiers charge towards the Soviets, who are hiding behind a small ridge. With time running out, the general orders one of his men to release his dog. The latter is obviously reluctant, but he gathers his courage and sends his best friend on his final mission. The canine then dodges all the incoming bullets and swiftly dashes beneath the tank, destroying it, blowing it to pieces. In the aftermath, the owner is left devastated, but he knows that this sacrifice will help their nation in the long run. Following this, dog number 2 is released, and he accomplishes his mission as well. But when it's time to release the 3rd canine, the owner hesitates. He instead takes the bomb in his own hands and charges towards the tank by himself. But this turns out to be stupid as hell, as he is immediately shot by the enemies. Upon witnessing this, the general impulsively runs to save his comrade, but he is also struck by one of the bullets, injuring him. Now that he has no hope of survival, the general bravely grabs the bomb and sacrifices himself to destroy the tank. With this, only 1 tank remains, but it is approaching the Soviet base at an alarming speed. At the same time, the Germans initiate an aerial attack, injuring several of their enemies. Nina, who has been working at the front line, is also injured. When Volkov notices her, he comes out of hiding and tries to save her, but in the process, he is also shot and injured. Just when it seems that all hope is lost, Prince suddenly takes charge. He dashes forward amidst the rain of bullets and goes underneath the final tank. The next second, a huge explosion occurs, resulting in the demise of the enemies as well as our hero. Both Volkov and Nina watch in dismay as their beloved companion sacrifices his life for the greater good of the nation. The movie then shifts to the present, where a lot of comrades are listening attentively to the old man's story. He reveals that his mother Nina died a few months later during the siege of Stalingrad. As for his father, Volkov, he enlisted in the Air Force and became a successful pilot, for you see, there are no dogs in the sky. He shot down a lot of German aircraft during the war, but ultimately went missing in 1945. The old man was then adopted by Tatiana, who took care of him like a son. She was the one who told him the heroic stories of their father and Prince. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.